Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Football Inc. and Sean Butler TV. It is a monster of a story out today. We've got FFP infractions. We've got a UEFA report that's looking like Barcelona and Chelsea and Aston Villa are all in the mud for their overspend. But the bigger one than all of that is Inter Milan. They are in a lot of trouble with all sorts of connotations. This one is a major story, and we've got Johnny H, of course, part of the channel here to talk about it with us. Johnny, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. Yeah, you can't go to sleep without waking up and having some drama. In fact, this one came in quite late last night. You know, it was a couple of rumours, but then there was more meat on the bone, and no doubt this is going to gather pace. I mean, this is absolutely huge. I mean, this is sort of you just, it's hard to believe actually what this one is. I mean, there's bumping up the your sponsorship deal to be bigger than it should be. You know, like a Man City, instead of getting, you know, like an airline deal, instead of paying like 5 million a season, bumping it up to 10 million a season. But when it comes to what Inter Milan have done, where they're just basically pretending that there is this when there is absolutely no sponsorship at all, to the tune of 395 million pounds, euros. Quite incredible. It
is, and on top of that, I mean, I'm going to get Johnny. Let Johnny read the story through in a second, but just the as you'll find out when we hear it, the kind of connotations of the fact that it wasn't just that Inter Milan are doing the shenanigans behind the scenes, that actually, according to reports and allegations at this stage, that the equivalent of the Italian or the English FA in Italy were not just like essentially a conduit to it, but it turns out that it looks like, according to reports, that they were actually trying to help Inter Milan circumvent these rules. Johnny, if you've got the story in front of you, mate, do you want to read it out to us so we can
yeah.
do it in real time?
Yeah, so breaking news: Inter are part of the biggest financial scandal in Italian football since Calciopoli, right? Which I'll read out in a minute for those who don't know it. A confidential report has revealed that nearly 300 million in revenues have been acquired from a fictitious Asian sponsor between 2016 and 2019, where allegedly used to bypass financial fair play. While other clubs were punished for less, the Italian Federation has allegedly helped Inter Milan avoid any sanctions, even amid links to mafia-connected ultras. Now, the Calciopoli event is referring to a sports scandal in Italian top professional football in Serie A, lesser to extent in Serie B. The scandal centered around the manipulation of referees in favour of certain clubs. I think it was between sort of 2004, 2006, making sure that the best referees went to certain clubs to give them favour. Inter Milan, it says here, Inter Milan is currently at the centre of a financial scandal involving its previous Chinese owner, Suning Holdings, who have failed to repay 395 million loan to Oaktree Capital Management. This failure led to Oaktree taking control of the club. Additionally, there are now reports of the club allegedly using fictitious Asian sponsors to inflate revenue and bypass all the financial fair play regulations. I mean, when you consider what happened with Juventus and their demise, this is way more, Sean. This is a much bigger animal. And I was just going to finish off. When you consider the aging squad that Inter Milan had, you know, we could see how aging they were. They fell apart in that final. They're going to have to lose a lot of that squad. What's going to happen now? They are in danger of getting demoted and serious fine. This could set them back at least a couple of divisions.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, we obviously, I don't know the connotations of it, but what I think is it's one thing to sort of, like I said in the last thing, it's one thing for the club to try to sort of like mismanage funds and to lie about things. It's another thing for the people that are supposed to be the police of such matters to be working with them under the threat of risk of mafia related ultras. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're terrifying people, but at the end of the day, what are we doing here? If you can't trust the police, then who's going to police the police? It's quite terrifying. I've got a bit more detail here, mate. If you want, I can just sort of run it through. So I know you can't share your screen, but can I just
add, Sean? Can I just add, when you consider how they punished Juventus, right, with that investigation, no holds barred, half of the directors left, Fabio got punished, banned from football. And he was just trying to help the club. No one took any money. They just tried to, jiggle the wages and stuff. But this is huge. Go on, carry on. Sorry, mate.
Yes, it's tough. So it says here, Inter Milan are facing one of the darkest moments in its recent history following a heavy Champions League defeat to PSG and the imminent departure of Simone Inzaghi. Looks like he's going today. He's in Paris to sign a deal to go to Saudi. Foot Mercato revealed a confidential report has emerged revealing serious financial irregularities, suspicious sponsorship deals, troubling connections with the ultras groups, and alleged institutional interference. The report prepared by London-based financial advisor linked to a potential buyer of the club highlights irregular financial management during the early years of Sunning's presidency, 16 to 19. Interesting, I don't think Inter won anything in that period. It reveals nearly £300 million in so-called regional sponsorships from largely dubious Asian companies, which were used to artificially inflate the club's revenue figures and meet UEFA's financial fair play requirements. Just quickly, Johnny, on this particular bit here, if the report suggests that £300 million was coming in, but they're from dubious Asian companies, right? So I don't know if the meat's in the rest of the story. We'll come to it in a second. But if it's real money, but it's just not coming from third parties, then isn't this eerily similar to what the Manchester City third-party transactions situation that they were facing a couple of years ago, and that have subsequently kind of been been on the right side of the law from, not with regards necessarily. I mean, some of those infractions are part of the 115 charges. Others are just about the inability for their sponsorship deals to be approved. But within the 115 charges that we still don't know the answers from, there were accusations that there were shell companies that were like essentially, companies that were just a letterbox operation where major money was coming into Manchester City through these essentially like disingenuous means. But obviously, if they're part of the 115 charges, this might sound eerily similar to it. I don't know if you want to take on that before we move on.
Yeah, no, I actually don't see that personally. I see that what Man City did, they inflated their sponsorship deals to unrealistic numbers. Okay, that's wrong in itself. If a stadium deal is announced, then most of them are like 10 million or 15, 20 million a year, and they're doing 40 million a year. It's wildly inflated and not realistic. But, a lot of like Manchester City with all their subsidiary companies that are part of the group that have taken over Manchester City, they've used all these different ones. What this is.
Well, no, just quickly though, I think maybe I misspoke, mate, because when I said the third party transaction, I'm not talking about the things that they won the court case on. But within the 115 charges, there were accusations of letterbox type companies in London that essentially offered no viable product or service that were sponsors of Manchester City, and So I think we might be talking about two different things. Sorry, carry on.
I just don't think that we're talking here about £300 million of sponsorship to meet their rules, if you wait for rules, when they just never existed, ever. Right? And then he's also borrowed that money to Oak Capital. He never repaid the money. He lied about the sponsorship. They never materialized. He borrowed the money against it, and then they've had to take over. So
they're phantom sponsorships. Yeah, you're right.
And on top of that, the league, the Italian league, were complicit in the whole thing.
Yeah, trying to shield them from any kind of UEFA investigation. Yeah. The report accuses the club of creating phantom sponsorships and using creative accounting to avoid creative accounting. It's only good if the creativity is accurate, to avoid bankruptcy and potential exclusion from Serie A. It also alleges pressure was applied on Italian football's authorities, including the FIGC and COVISOC, to overlook financial irregularities. Transparency concerns extends to the club's ownership structure with complex offshore arrangements and the lack of clarity over final shareholders. The report also points to CEO Giuseppe Maratta's role in negotiating with ultras during times of crisis and maintaining contacts linked to organized crime, although no official investigations have been opened. Just quickly on this story starts here with regarding, here we go, the report prepared by a London-based financial advisor linked to a potential buyer of the club. Is there any chance that this is all a bit of a kind of a hosh-posh of information that is trying to, from a potential buyer to lower the price by making out that there's problems that maybe there's some truth to, but it's not quite as crazy as this sounds? To get a lower price?
I don't think so. I mean, Stephen Zhang, or Zhang, or whatever his name was, there was questions asked about him at the time. You can't. This is a serious accusation, Sean.
Yeah,
if this was, that's a serious accusation. You can't make an accusation like this without some facts behind it. I think it's there's definitely substance to all of this. I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, how have they covered it up? Listen, it's not the first time we've had scandal in Italy, fraud and corruption. It just seems to be part and parcel of Italian football. But this one's about the biggest one that I can think of. I mean, 300 million of fake sponsorship. What a China
is, mate. Like, Juventus got sent back, didn't they? Juventus got relegated. So. Yeah. I mean, surely, I guess they didn't win any titles, right? But as I spoke to you about this on the phone, when I spoke to you about this on the phone earlier, I said, the consequences and the connotations don't just exist within the direct impact on Italian clubs that are also going to be a victim of their fraud. But you could make the argument that teams across Europe, if they were participating in the Champions League during those seasons, then those players that may have been purchased as a consequence of fictitious money that was floating around, or, in order to avoid bankruptcy, all those things, then those players that would have otherwise needed to have been sold to make the balance book, they would have changed the competitive balance of not just that team that would have competed in the Italian Cups and the Italian League, the Serie A, but also in Europe. And so the impact of that doesn't also just fall onto the teams that played against them in the in the Champions League, but you could also make the argument that everybody is somehow is a victim of that, because some teams would have been knocked out by Inter Milan as a consequence of having players that wouldn't otherwise have been in the team, and so those clubs would have then gone back and focused on their own leagues during the tail end of the season, and then therefore had more time, more energy to focus on the games in there. You know what I mean? Like, where does it stop? Where does the potential impact of that sort of disingenuous behavior stop, Johnny? It's quite crazy, right?
The alarm should have been ringing. I mean, the fit for purpose, owners should be going on in every single league, and that's why it's imperative that the Premier League, when an owner comes in, I mean, they didn't do it with Saudi PIF; they just announced it. I mean, there's no doubt they got the money, but there should be proper due diligence. And this guy's come in from China. He's probably back in China somewhere, owing all this money. I mean, how do you run up 369 million worth of debt with fake sponsorship, borrowing the money off the capital? And obviously, they've taken the money back. They've taken the company back, and now they're trying to sell it. What begs the question is, the company that's taken it over, Oakwood Capital, I can't remember the name exactly. Why have they not spotted this? Why did it need a financial advisor from the UK to highlight something? Because Zhang left in 2019. We're going back 6 years ago. Why has it taken 6 years for them?
Well, I mean, how long did it take the Premier League to start the investigation into Manchester City? And that investigation has been going on for 4 years, and it still hasn't come to its conclusion. Well, apparently it did come to its conclusion. We just don't know about it. It's just absolutely insane. Listen, at the end of the day, who knows where the devil is in the detail? But these things. Obviously, if you're going to be taking over a company, you're going to have permission to go through their accounts, and depending on the quality of the audit, but depending on the kind of the attention that is paid by the people that are employed to go through everything, these things don't necessarily emerge unless there's a buyer. Maybe if there was no buyer of Inter Milan that's floating around in the background, then this would never have come to the table. And the reason for that is because, as I said at the start, the police, who are supposed to be on top of this thing, it sounds to me like they're not trying to police or anything. They're actually trying to help the criminals commit crime.
They've got to do it now, Sean. They've got to do it now. They've got to throw them out. How long is it going to take them to investigate? They should be thrown out of the Champions League straight away. The Italian league know about it. They've hidden it. The Italian league could be punished by UEFA for shielding them from all of this, knowing full well that it was going on under their noses and just hoping it wouldn't, come to the surface. I wouldn't be surprised now if there is legs in this, that there's a great demand for Barella and Bastoni to leave the club all of a sudden. Two quality players. If they get dropped a couple of that's
why Inzaghi wanted to leave, maybe get out before the fixtures.
Who knows?
Rats leaving a ship, maybe. I don't know. Just quickly, we haven't even asked anybody to smash the like button. We got straight into it, because we've got so much to talk about today. We've got this story. We got Barca, Villa, and Chelsea on the FFP problems, and we got about a dozen other transfer news, views, and clues to get through. So please smash the like button if you're watching this on Football Link or Sean Butler TV. Smash the like button at some point in the video. Please get down into the description and click up the link on the other channel that you're not watching on. Do the same over there. Really appreciate it. Nearsighted Remembrance saying this is not being reported almost anywhere else. Well, it's Calcio Mercato, mate. They're reporting it, and Tribuna is just taking the story and doing the due diligence. And Johnny's obviously found other sources as well. Look, we're just reporting what's out there, mate. This is what we do. We're not investigative journalists, so we're just bringing to your attention things that are out there. If it turns out to be a nothing burger, then so be it. But it is what it is. It's only broken the last couple of hours.
We can do clickbait or we can do fact bait, and we're here to talk about football. Talk about every club, whatever story hits the headlines, and that's what we're here to do. That's what this channel is about. Okay, we're not just going to be limited to what went on in a football game. So stay tuned if that's what you're looking for.
100%. Listen, on that particular note, I don't think, unless you've got any more information to share on it, Johnny, I don't. So we'll see what happens. But it's a breaking story. It's just come out in the last. Well, it came out late last night from Calcio Mercato, and then it's starting to get around. But this is a story.
I know nothing.
I know nothing either. Let's move on, mate. Oh, get that off the screen. Quick. Let's move on to this one. Some sort of financial sanctions Barcelona might be facing for violating financial fair plays. FC Barcelona, this is according to beIN Sports, but it's also out there. I think the Times was the report for this one. Is it on the screen now? I think it is.
It's still playing, mate. They're still playing on the corner.
Oh, sorry. Okay, gotcha. FC Barcelona once again finds itself at the centre of financial scrutiny in Europe. Despite securing a place in next season's UEFA Champions League as La Liga champions, the Catalan club could face serious sanctions from UEFA for repeated breaches of FFP, potentially affecting their European campaign before it even begins. According to the Times, UEFA previously fined Barcelona $500,000 for misreporting income related to the sale of 10% of their television rights in 2022. The club listed the operation as other operating income, but UEFA ruled it should have been categorized as a loss of intangible assets, making it ineligible to improve their FFP position. Barcelona later repeated the maneuver, selling another 15% of their TV rights for an estimated 400 bar, further raising UEFA's concerns. Given the recurrence of the issue, the governing body is now considering harsher penalties for the Spanish giants. Before we carry on with the story, Johnny, if the benefits of cheating are that you can buy new players, register new players like Dani Olmo, and we know about the things that they did more recently with regarding selling, access to premium boxes at a stadium wasn't even built yet. But if the benefits of cheating are being able to create a better team, and the punishment for cheating is a £500,000 fine, I mean, what are we doing here? Is it just like, where's the incentive to kind of work within the rules if all they get is a slap on the wrist in terms of real punishment?
UEFA has to step up now. This is rubbish now. They have to enforce these fines. I mean, they've sold more seats than they actually have in the new stadium that isn't even built. I mean, what's next? They're going to sell, no doubt. I mean, they've sold now 25% of future earnings from their production and TV company. They've sold interest to another company. I'm not sure if Spotify got involved with a bit. And no doubt they'll sell the ladies' football team at a vastly inflated price. I mean, Chelsea's sold a proportion of, was it 8% of their ladies' football team, valuing their women's football team at £225 million. I think that the manoeuvring here, they keep breaking it. Okay, they're almost bankrupt, yet they're somehow building a £1 billion stadium, right? Renovating that stadium. They're selling seats that don't exist. They keep selling. I mean, where are they producing all this money from? And yet the UEFA know they're breaking the rules. They know that Chelsea have broken the rules. They know that Man City have broken the rules. Unless they're going to step up and actually do something about it and make it an equal playing field. Look, there's enough money now, Sean. If you're in the Champions League every season and you're doing well in the league, there's enough money to operate it. And if you can't operate a football club with the amount of money that's coming in via TV and from UEFA, then you're not managing it properly and you've got to pay the price. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Just quickly to finish off the last story, Marlon Blade, I don't think he has, mate. As far as I'm aware, one of the stories we were going to come to was that Como's CEO has turned around and said that they're rejecting any interest in Cesc Fabregas. So we shall see, mate. We shall see. Like I say, that story is one that we'll put on ice for the time being.
Well, I'm just going to say, Sean, if there are sanctions against Inter Milan, he won't be taking that job, will he?
No, who would want it? Who would want to go back and see a team that's going to have to be sold? And if Inter Milan, obviously, look, the story about the financial destitution, I guess, almost of half of Europe, I never thought it would really include the biggest teams. I always thought that there was maybe a dozen teams around Europe that are always sort of above that level, almost like the rule of law doesn't exist financially, nor does it exist from a punishment, a punitive situation with certain teams. Obviously, with Barcelona, it feels like if they're able to kind of just to completely entirely fudge the books, get away with it, then do it again and again, and then try it again with this with like you say, with the invisible with the selling of TV rights and now the selling of seats to be able to just so they can register some of their players. I think they just sold Ansu Fati as well to somewhere in France. I think it might be Monaco or somewhere. But I just find that it seems like there's a two-tier legal system in football, as there is in life, where the very best, the very biggest names and the biggest brands seem to always get at worst a slap on the wrist and never really seem to have any of the consequences for their actions felt like smaller teams seem to do. It must be galling if you're like a Nottingham Forest, for example, or an Everton that got those points deductions,
or a Crystal Palace, or a Crystal Palace that are getting drawn into a meeting here to explain dual club ownership when you've got RB Leipzig and you've got two Red Bull,
Leipzig and Salzburg,
multi-club ownership all over Europe right now, and little Crystal Palace, who have just qualified for the first time in Europe, are now having to prove that their disconnect between the owners. I mean,
do you not think that's a very simple solution though? Can't the owner that is obviously that's connected? Can't they just sort of temporarily resign themselves from the board, similar to what the Nottingham Forest guy did?
Well, so he did that. The Nottingham Forest owner, which is why you saw him absolutely lose his shit on the pitch when Forest lost. Because he removed himself because he's the owner of Olympiacos. He couldn't have Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest, so he thought he took himself off the Forest board. Now he needn't have bothered because they're not in the Champions League. But my point here is, Sean, that they're making an issue because it's a small club. Lots of other clubs have had multi-club issues, but they haven't been dragged before UEFA. It's like swept under the carpet, and that's the point you were making.
Yeah, 100%.
One rule, little club, another.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, let's continue with this article about Barcelona. What sanctions could UEFA impose if UEFA confirms that Barcelona violated FFP regulations again? the club could face several possible sanctions, including a reduced squad size in UEFA competitions. I mean,
minimal.
What is that? It's like ridiculous. A larger financial fine than the previous irrelevant $500,000,
500
euro.
Yeah, 550.
Ridiculous. Or a point deduction in UEFA competitions, though rare, still possible in severe cases. How about a rejection from the competition? I mean, that's happened before. That's happened before, right? Like, I don't understand why is it that Barcelona worked to a different level of. And I'm pretty sure that the team in Italy, it was Juve. Juve got banned, kicked out of the Europa League. I think it was
AC Milan as well.
Or maybe it was AC Milan. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was AC Milan. Yeah. It was. I think you're right. It's AC Milan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and AC Milan are a monster as well. But what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. I say that phrase all the time. But you have to have consistency. Otherwise, it stinks of I don't know. It stinks of corruption that's based on a back scratching scenario.
Here, 2-tier Kia. This is 2-tier UEFA.
These punishments will be especially damaging for Barcelona, who are seeking a return to European prominence after multiple seasons without reaching the late stages of this. Well, they don't deserve European prominence if they can't balance their books because they think that they can overspend because they're Barcelona. It's arrogant. It's arrogant, and I'm surprised that there's not more uproar about this. I'm surprised there wasn't more uproar about the initial fine, $500,000. What is that? It's irrelevant. That's probably 1 week's salary for Lamine Yamal. I don't know how much he gets paid, but I'm sure he's not far from it, even though he's only 17 years old. It's ridiculous. Are other clubs under investigation, Johnny? Yes, Chelsea and Aston Villa are also reportedly under review by UEFA, though their infractions are not repeat offences. Well, I mean, the only reason Chelsea and Aston Villa's aren't repeat offences is because of their ridiculous abilities to jump through the loopholes.
Chelsea, I mean, it's just laughable, right? Yeah, first infractions. I mean, if you want to do some circus acts, I mean, with juggling of finances, Chelsea are the masters. Selling the hotel back to themselves, selling the women's football team for vastly inflated prices, dropping off youth players who aren't worth 2 bob to Saudi, right, for vastly inflated money so that they can meet FFP and PSR. And
not just youth players, but Deadwood, who was there was that centre back that was I forget his name off the top of my head. Let me know. Someone in the chat will let me know. He disappeared after Saudi for like 45 million quid. It's just outrageous, isn't it? And Aston Villa doing the same thing, selling who was it? Not Morgan Rogers.
John Duran.
John Duran for 75 million quid. It's madness, mate. Madness.
I've just
but apparently they're not repeat offences. And their sanctions are expected to be less severe. So what's that? $200,000 fine. Oh, as if Todd Bowley's even going to wake up, like he's not even going to get out of bed for less than $300,000. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, mate?
Do you know, actually, thanks up to Levy Omics, who sent me this earlier. It's the UEFA squad cost ratio. Asking whether it's an issue for Spurs and other clubs. As Spurs are qualified for Europe, they must comply with the UEFA squad cost control ratio, which limits the spend on players' wages, transfers and agents' fees to 70% of the revenue and profit from player sales. This is in addition to any Premier League requirements, right? The UEFA squad cost ratio is often cited with cash flow and separate as the reason we have to limit our transfer and wage budget. But most are miscalculating, right? So, when I look for comparison, right, Spurs are around about 49. For comparison, the UEFA squad cost control estimates for Premier League clubs are currently standing at 49% for Tottenham, 61% for Arsenal, 86% Aston Villa, so well above the threshold, 70% Chelsea, 62% Liverpool, 54% surprisingly Man City, Man United 66%, and again surprisingly Newcastle running at 71%. So 2 clubs there already above the the threshold of 70% max.
Yeah, that'll be estimated though, because obviously we don't have access to the actual amortization structures of all the players at the various clubs, right? So he's using that. I guess
as they stand at the moment,
unless he knows, unless he's got insight that obviously we don't. I don't know the guy, but I'd imagine that he's basing it off of last season's accounts.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, either way though, but unless he's got access, he won't know whether or not the amortization. He won't know the structure of the amortization, how much is due right now versus how much is in longer term things. So, but yeah, like those details are, it's publicly available, and it's like I say, Aston Villa have got a big like squeeze on themselves. This is the third season. I don't know. I mean, last year they got around it by getting rid of John Duran and by doing the thing they did last summer, like we said, Johnny. But before I disappeared off the internet for about 6 months, we spoke about the fact that there were 12 loopholes. Right, there was 12 loopholes that we could figure out within 5 minutes of thinking about it between us, and we spoke about it on a stream. And then 3 days later, 2 of the 5 clubs that deliberately vote against any kind of tightening of FFP within the Premier League rules, at least. They were guilty of doing the exact thing that we suggested that they could.
Swapping players for inflated prices to balance the books, doing them as homegrown.
100%. Look, I mean, we'll see what happens there. I imagine that Aston Villa will be fine because they've got their relationships in Saudi and they'll be able to sell a couple of their players. Yeah. But what I am interested to know, though, obviously, Emi Martinez, I mean, he's on the list of things. We can move away from the financial stuff and just sort of gently transition this via Aston Villa into the transfer thing now. They're probably going to sell Emi Martinez. Who do you think that Aston Villa will look towards for a goalkeeper replacement if they go in that direction? I mean, with Flecken going the way that he's gone, I'm trying to figure out where the obvious solution would be. Any ideas?
Well, I thought Kelleher would be in demand, but Brentford, didn't hang about.
Great deal for them. Fantastic
deal for them because they're losing Flecken, who's a really good keeper. I really rate Kelleher, but when you've got Man United sitting there with Calamity Jane in goal there, Emil Martinez, how do you replace him? Really, how do you replace a player like him? I'm not sure. Ramsdale. He wants big money. Does Ramsdale go to Man United or does he go to Aston Villa? There aren't a lot of.
I saw something with regards Mike Maignan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought he was going to Chelsea from what I saw. So where's the Chelsea keepers going? Chelsea are getting rid of both of their keepers. Maybe one of them will end up at Aston Villa. But if they do, I'd be very surprising if Aston Villa can replace Emi Martinez with a goalkeeper of Martinez's quality. I'd be very surprised. Maybe they can. We'll wait and see. I haven't seen any links for it, but that's a big hole. That's a big hit to them if they do lose because they have to sell. I mean, Bailey's a quality player as well, right? And if he disappears out to Saudi Arabia, on the right-hand side, there's been a lot of transition in Aston Villa's sort of right-wing specialists over the last couple of seasons. And they might have to sell Ollie Watkins as well, Johnny. That even though they have the connections to get themselves out of a tight bind, the fact that they missed out on Champions League because of absolute robbery, I'll be really interested to see if Aston Villa fans, just quickly as a side thought here, if Aston Villa fans go, hang about, the referee screwed us. Can we get a lighter punishment for FFP infractions? Because it's not our fault. We would have had 100 million quid extra if it wasn't for that bloody referee.
One's one and one's the other. Yeah. I don't know. Listen, I can see Bailey going. I'm not sure if I can see
Watkins
going because that leaves him short in the up front. Liverpool have got Mamashvili coming in, and Arsenal need another goalkeeper. Don't forget, Nuno was on loan from Forest. I can't see him staying at Arsenal. So there is a need. Man United need a goalkeeper. Villa could need a goalkeeper. But I think they will sell the likes of, I said before, Bailey will raise quite a bit of money to Saudi, and they'll probably knock out another couple out to Saudi Arabia to make ends meet. And don't forget, Rashford now will reduce that 96%, wages to income, because he was on massive wages, even allowing for Man United subsidising the transfer.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. Look, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating summer. It's frustrating the life out of me. A quick thought towards Tottenham Hotspur, mate, before we move on to some of the other stories regarding Liverpool and Man United and Chelsea and other teams in the Premier League. Tottenham, another day of silence. Does the silence speak volumes to me, mate? It really does to me. I think there has to be something big happening in the boardroom for this absolutely disgraceful period. And Leroy Sané allegedly came out, allegedly, according to reports, big reports from Bayern Munich, Bayern Munich sourced tweets, Twitter handles saying that he's got no interest in joining Tottenham. He's got his family that lives here. You know, he comes back a lot. He wants to be in the Premier League. He wants to be in London, but apparently, according to reports, Tottenham are not for him. Are Chelsea going to be interested in Leroy Sané?
Sané for Martinelli, I can see that. Look, he's just posturing. I can see him still going back to Bayern. And listen, as far as Ange Postecoglou, I think they had to wait. They had to wait, Sean. You know, with all the euphoria of everything going on after winning, and then the parade. What are they going to do? Sack him the day later? No, you can't. You have to let the dust settle. As I said to you before, I believe there'll be a meeting the next couple of days, Thursday, Friday, towards the end of the week, and then around about 3 o'clock today, to vindicate what I've been saying for the last few days, there appears to be a meeting this week to decide exactly what's going on. The other story coming out there is Spurs are willing to entertain a large bid for Son from Saudi, and with the Saudis, not managing to get Bruno Fernandes, will they go for Sonny? He's 32 years of age, coming up 33. He can certainly play in in that league very comfortably. Let's be honest. You could play that in that league till you're probably 38 years of age. Whether I can't see the fact that Spurs are going out to Korea, that they're going to go to Korea without Sonny there, which would rule him out. Yeah, exactly.
That's so true.
Yeah, I can't see him going out there. The Saudis will want him for the World Club Cup. Al Hilal's first game is against Real Madrid, so they'd want to get that done and dusted. So for that deal to go, it would have to happen now. And as I said, with the tour going to South Korea, I can't see that happening until late summer, if at all.
Another story for you today that's just broken from a big Flamengo journalist out in Brazil, who apparently Flamengo own some slice of Rodrigo Muniz, the forward from Fulham, and that they're saying that links. I haven't seen any links around it in the UK press, but apparently there's links in Brazil that Flamengo are delighted with the idea that Muniz is going to be sold to Tottenham, and that will mean that Flamengo don't have to reshape their squad in order to meet certain cash requirements that they have. So links that Tottenham are interested in. Oh shit! Hang on.
Oh, and he's gone.
Sorry, hang on out. Links that Tottenham are interested in.
It's like the Titanic there, Dave hanging on to the edge of his desk.
Never let go, Jack. Never let go. I'm gonna go pick up my camera if it's still working. But links from Rodrigo Muniz. This stinks almost as much as Dominic Calvert-Lewin links, Johnny. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Look, everyone and every dog and his agent, right, is picking up players at the moment, and is linking them. One person who's getting to work finally at his new club is Edu, who is looking at signing 3 players from Botafogo out there in Brazil. And he knows his players. He knows his onions. He's a good recruiter, Edu. We've seen that with, Martinelli and, Nottingham Forest with their history of, Murillo and a couple of others they've bought. I think there'd probably be a good signing. There's one of the signings there, I'll have to look back on it, who I've done my digging in and asked around, who's going to be quite decent. But, it's not usual to buy a trio of players from one club, but it looks like that's what he's doing. I expect Edu to do a very, very good job. at Forest. It's quite funny because the first guy he had there went like he was going to like the sale at Lidl, right? Rush in, you've got half an hour to get every player you can in your basket. And I think what is that, something like 20 different players? Anyway,
Yeah.
he did 5 minutes and got the sack. They managed to get rid of all of them. And since that moment, the recruitment's been exceptionally good. Milenkovic, Murillo, and others that they've brought in. So I expect Edu to continue that trend. How many of those players will stay in Botafogo and how many will be brought to the Premier League and given their chance? I'm not sure. Well, I think one of them's a striker. So I think they'll be looking to, Chris Wood getting on and their striker who collided with the post. I don't know how well he is now, whether he's recovered. We shall see.
We shall see, mate. Just a quick update on Liverpool. They're closing in on deals for both Florian Wirtz, which is going to be a record transfer. I think 150 million, but 160 million pound for a UK player. I mean, insane money. I've got massive concerns about the amount of money, even though players don't it's not their fault what the clubs pay for each other for these players. It's not like it's an unknown and that the players aren't aware of it and the pressure that comes with it. If you come with a high price tag and a hefty wage, you have to perform. There's no room for an acclimation period. And the deal is that Liverpool really want him, and they're also going after Bournemouth defender Milos Kerkez as well, mate. Thoughts on those two double signings alongside Frimpong? It looks like a really interesting summer emerging for Liverpool, right?
Listen, they didn't spend anything last year. They're spending big. I love Kerkez. He's been a great find for Bournemouth, the Hungarian international. What's not to like? Is he 21, 22 years of age on that left side? He'll dovetail with Robertson with the Champions League and the Premier League. There won't be much of a drop-off between those two. And the same, you've got the dovetail between Frimpong and Conor Bradley. So I think, great assets. Florian Wirtz, pop him in the midfield with Sobotsai, McAllister. I mean, honestly, that's a lovely, strong-looking squad. And then you look at Man City, and Man City, with Ryan Cherky looking like that's going to get done, and then announcing Reinders coming from Holland now. The Father Christmas is going to be one reindeer short.
Yeah. Rudolph up in Manchester. It's not going to be bad, is it?
5-year deal. Big money, though. 70 million euros, it's been reported.
He's a class player, mate. Class player. But when I think that might actually end up being the transfer of the summer. I really like him. Really do.
With him, when you look at him, Cherky, Mamouche, Kusanov, I think he needs time. Kusanov, the defender. I was never that when I saw Kusanov when he was linked to Tottenham briefly in January. I did a Y Scout review on him, and I was like, I said it. You can check the tape. I said that I'm just not sure he's ready yet. He's very fast, big, strong, strapping guy, but there's something about his technicality I'm just not that convinced with. And I think he looks to me like he's, dare I say, clumsy. Every time I call a player clumsy, they end up banging in the goals. But there's something about him that I didn't think was quite ready. He ended up going to Manchester City, and I thought, if they see it, then obviously I'm wrong. And then I didn't think he started very well for Manchester City. So long career, but we'll wait and see on that one, I think. I think, when you look at Man City, are they gearing up for a serious crack at the World Club Cup? With Rodri, probably, are they going to have Rodri fit for the tournament? Oscar Bobb's coming back. Phil Foden hasn't had a lot of game time this season. I think, I think that's, again, looking at a good, and El Nouri, I was just about to say, and El Nouri, it's looking again, I think, look, the three clubs that are going to, who I expected to recruit big time, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. I just wasn't expecting Man United, who lost the final, and Jim Ratcliffe culling everything, including the tea lady, would be one of the biggest movers for two absolutely banging assets in Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo. I'm kind of shocked at them being able to secure those two signings if they can get Mbeumo across the line.
Mate, I don't disagree with you at all. Let me pivot forward here to a story regarding Gabri Vega, the player that was once upon a time, and well, I mean, how old is he? He's 23 years old. Insane money. He went from Celta Vigo to El Ali for 30 million quid. He's now on his way back to Porto for 15 million euros. Like, explain to me exactly why it is, right, that Premier League clubs. I can understand it. I mean, maybe I'm being a hypocrite here, but what, like, when I say that, why should Saudi Arabia have to pay 4 times the worth of anyone else when the rationale is they have all the money, right? And also, but there's no real draw of the league absent the money. But why is it that Tottenham or any Premier League club would never be able to get Gabri Vega for 15 million euros? So why is it that Portuguese teams and German teams absent Bayern Munich? Well, why is it that these teams can get away with paying players only 50% of what everyone else pays, and the players still want to go there ahead of coming to the Premier League? I feel like this weird world where we're like, oh, they're English, fuck them, make them pay more. Like, it pisses me off, mate.
How much is John Duran going to be when he comes back? I mean, does John Duran? Like John Duran, he will want to play in the World Cup, right? So there's a lot of thought behind players not going out to Saudi. Meanwhile, he's a Colombian international and he's playing at a dog shit level. No disrespect to the Saudi league, but you're going for the money. You're not going to, what are you paying in front of? 2,000-3,000. You probably got more fans going to Wimbledon, and Barnet.
yeah, I know. It's I don't know, mate. To me, I just feel like there's I don't know. There's one rule for everybody else in Europe and another rule for us, and then Saudi up. But it's like I say, Saudi don't have a draw. The Premier League is the greatest league in the world for a reason, and yet there's just no chance that Tottenham or anyone else in the Premier League would be able to get away with bidding that sort of money and having it accepted.
Just to say, if anyone from Saudi is out there, Sean or I are willing under duress to go out to Saudi for a few months. And
in other news, Johnny, I got offered a. This is the piss take that comes with content creators. I got offered a gig, and I said, "Oh, what's the compensation to bring my audience to someone's new platform, right? To someone's new platform, backed by some broadcaster or something." And I said, "What's the compensation?" Oh, there's no money, no money. I was like, "Oh, okay." So you expect me to work? You expect me to bring my platform to you guys and work for free? Do you? Okay. What are we doing here? It's just I feel like there's a piss take around English. It's a nightmare, mate. Let me ask you this one. Joe Gomez, Liverpool centre back. Leeds United are in competition for him. A lot of teams in the Premier League are looking at Joe Gomez. Do you see the impending exit of him as a catalyst, a starting berth for something big to happen at the back for Liverpool? Like, maybe they're going to go after Mark Gahey. Maybe they'll go after a player of that ilk. I mean, what do you think of Joe? I mean, I think Joe Gomez has been a wonderful player, wonderful asset for Liverpool. He's moving on. Good player.
Well, it could be. Yeah, you could have the double Joe defense, Joe Rodon and Joe Gomez. I don't think Mark Gahey, man of God and all that, right? I don't think Mark Gahey will leave Crystal Palace this summer. He's got 1 year left on his contract. What do you think he's going to do, Sean? Come on. I know what he's. Come on.
I think it's all about timing, mate. I think it depends, right? So, like, I think Liverpool are smart in the way that they do their business. I think Liverpool they're always considering what they want, when they need it, how much they need it, but they're also looking at other things that are going on and figuring out whether they want to get stuck into like bidding wars for Gyökeres or whatever. And they go, you know what? Let Chelsea, let Arsenal, let United, let Spurs, let everyone in the Premier League that's a kind of a rival to us fight it amongst themselves for this, that, and the other. And we'll wait 12 months. We'll be fine for 12 months. And then we'll go and see if we can get Isak when everyone else is out of the way. And I say that I think the same would be smart for someone like Mark Gahey, and sit there and kind of go, well, what's the market now versus what's the market next summer? Do I get the massive move that I want next summer? Maybe the Crystal Palace come in and put in a huge bid. I think that if you're an agent of Mark Gahey, you can say, look, he's only got 1 year left, but if you want him to make the move now, then you give him 60% of the signing fee that you would give him next year to convince him to go now.
No, it's honestly, Mark Gahey, unless something strange happens, I see plays out the summer. Parish wants 70 million for him, right?
That's he's not going to get that now, is he? No chance.
Okay. So he doesn't get that now. So he doesn't get there now. So next year he walks for nothing.
So, right? But then on that basis, wouldn't Parish go, well, I don't want you to leave for free. I'll take 50 or 45. Like I say, it's a game of cat and mouse, isn't it? Like everyone's got their angle.
Yes, but the player has to agree to the deal, sure.
That's my point I'm making, though, is that the agent would say, if you want him to come now, if Liverpool were to say, I'm not giving you 70, I'll give you 40. Or, by the way, like we've already had a conversation, then we're happy to wait for a year, right? We're happy to wait for a year. And he's like, well, don't do that. Okay, well, I'll accept 40. And then the difference, that 30 million quid difference that was rejected in January, the player's agent goes back to Liverpool and says, well, you're going to get him a year early and you need him now because you're selling Joe Gomez or whatever. You're going to give him more money, more wages, or a slice of the fee that you would have got next summer anyway. So, like
Europe, I think he plays in Europe this season. And then he goes on a freebie next season, aka, Trent Arnold, but without paying the 10 million for the Club World Cup. No, I see him staying on. Listen, I might be wrong, but if I was him, I'd be looking at seeing out the final year of my contract.
How long's he been at Palace? Has he been there the whole time?
Yeah, he is. He was at Chelsea, wasn't he, at one point?
I think so. Any other big stories, mate?
William is leaving Fulham, and what's his name? Carlos Vinicius. They're leaving now. Their contract's not being renewed. I think Kearney's contract has been offered. Tom Kearney, he's been offered an extension of contract. I'm not sure if there's any other. Man City, we've done Rangers, Liverpool. I mean, obviously, I think Jadon Sancho needs to have a word with himself. Yet another club that doesn't want to take up the offer, even at £25 million. So they're willing to pay £5 million penalty, handing back to Man United. And now Man United have got a problem trying to get rid of him. He's on massive wages and he's going to struggle to get rid. We've done El Nouri. No, I think that's about it, really. Tyrone Ming signed a contract extension. And I think the only other one I know was Newcastle were interested in João Pedro. And that's going to take a big, big bid. Again, 70, 80 million, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't think that João Pedro's going anywhere anytime. He's a great player, but not sure if anyone's going to pay that sort of money for him. Nick Voltemade, by the way, the player we've spoken about.
Is that from Harry Potter?
I mean, there's someone, I forget who it is on my Spurs talk show chat. Every time we talk about strikers, he always brings up Voltemade from Stuttgart. Apparently, he's now hot property and a massive desire to go to Real Madrid. So we shall see. That guy bangs in the goals. He's one of those 95 percentile players in most of the departments that you'd want on FB Refs. Absolutely 6'4". He's just not very good in the air. But yeah, an interesting. Yeah, it's always a bit weird to me, and it's weird to me. That's about it, mate. I think it's perfect time to round off then, mate. And we'll leave it there. Thanks, Johnny, for coming on. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. Interesting updates in the world of FFP. Interesting stuff. We'll keep an eye on that Inter story and find out whether there's too much or if there's more to it. As that story breaks, you can catch up with it right here.
Please hit the subscribe button, and please let us know what club you're from if you're not from Spurs, because obviously we're trying to attract people from all clubs. So please let us know in the comments what club you're following. As I said, we'll be doing all the clubs as soon as we get any news. The only other one that is up in the air that is with Leeds United, whether Leeds look to retain Manor Solomon or he comes back to Spurs. But I'm sure that will have legs in the next couple of weeks. We shall see. But thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to us. And as I said, hit the subscribe button on Football Inc. and hit the comments and like button.
Also do the same on Sean Butler TV, guys, if you can. And whichever one you're on, double check the other side. Make sure you subscribe there as well. Like, subscribe, and comment. As always, bye-bye.